right, so we just saw
Car Trees.
Now I'm gonna talk about it. So Cars 3 tells the continuing adventures of Lightning McQueen. That is very key here because the other characters from the previous Cars movies are very much so on the back burner here. So Lightning McQueen and his story arc takes center stage. So in the story, he's getting older and he's still at the top of his game until a new generation of racers show up and it changes the racing game entirely and he's struggling just to keep up. He gets new management and a new training regime, and the question is, can he return to the top? And this is the setup for our movie. And to be clear, this is a kids movie. The best of Pixar movies are actually not even the best of Pixar movies. The vast majority of Pixar movies are family movies made for the whole family that you can all enjoy. They can get quite a bit out of. The Cars series has tended to be more kids movies, and that's what this really is. It tries to have adult themes, but it's a kids movie. And so for me, I'm going to kind of review it in that light of it's a movie that if I have to watch this with my kids, how do I feel about this? How much enjoyment did I get out of it? And how much do I think I was even the target audience? And I don't feel like I was the target audience really at all. So with all that said, let's go ahead and talk about this movie. So the key things about this movie that really kind of work is the visuals. Right off the bat, the graphics are incredible. There's all these shots of them driving through different cities and on beaches and through woods and forests and stuff. And I mean, it's just astounding where CGI has gotten. And it's not like if you watch the original Toy Story, at least not for me, it doesn't look bad in any way. It doesn't really seem dated to me until I see stuff like this and I go, I mean, that looks real. Like there's a cartoon car with eyes and a mouth and it's driving down the road and I'm going, that's so real. It's some of it's just creepy to look at. Also along the same lines, they seem to have locked in on a story format that just makes for an enjoyable, easy to watch, easy to digest, enjoyable film. It's as classic as can be, tried and true sports movie template. It's Rocky 3, it's Talladega Nights, it's the old champ returns, finds a new trainer, goes to the old ways, goes primitive, tries to explore things, trying to come back to the top. It touches on a lot of these sorts of things. It does throw some twists and turns in there. It's not straight Rocky 3. It's not exactly Talladega Nights, but it certainly is following that template largely throughout the story. And so in that, it makes for a very easy to consume movie that, it hits on a lot of the right emotions that you want in a sports movie. When I say that, I mean, in the finale of this movie, kind of where the things go in that third act, all throughout the third act, my audience is, woo! My daughter kind of started clapping. She's sitting in my lap clapping, trying to go along with the crowd. I'm not even sure if she was following the plot. I know she fell asleep at least one time. But so, I mean, the crowd was loving it. Like that third act, loving what was happening is exactly what you want out of a sports movie. With all that said, let's go into the negatives. And man, the first act, beginning of the second act of this movie, I did not like. It just right out of the gate felt clunky, and the opening scene has Mater in it, and it was like Mater was only there because, hey, remember Mater? We can't squeeze him into much of this movie, so we'll put him in there right off the bat. And the scene it sets up some later scenes, but it doesn't really work all that well, and then it only kind of gets worse as it goes for about 30 minutes. Like there was some stuff 25 minutes into it. I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. And I got my kids here and I'm going to have to leave my kids here. I'm going to be arrested, all because this movie is that bad. And then it picks up, it gets better. But there's some stuff where Lightning McQueen starts being trained in a car gym and he's in a simulator. And I was like, this is really bad. This is not well conceived. It's not clever. It's the most base level stupid jokes without poo-poo and farts. Also, this movie is one of the most predictable films I have ever seen. It telegraphs its moves so far in advance. I mean, like about 15 minutes into it, they introduce some characters and story ideas, and I went, oh, the movie's going to be in some ballpark of about right here. 10 minutes later into it, they have a couple more reveals, and I was like, okay, it's going to be something like this. And about 45 minutes into it, I was like, oh, this is where, like, to this point right here is where this movie is headed, and I was right. And you're going to watch it and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It is so predictable. It is so obvious. And all that kind of goes back to, this is a movie made for kids. A kid will watch it and be like, oh, wow, this is incredible where this is going. But if you're a teenager or older, it's just predictable. It's really, really obvious what they're doing extremely early on in the film. It is set up in a way to everything is simplistic and in your face as possible. And to some of these just points of how kind of confused the movie is a little bit, of it's written on such a simplistic and obvious level, but the themes of it tie into the idea of getting older and aging and figuring out your place in life as you get older and discovering that what do you do and the new joys that come with age that don't resonate to the audience that would enjoy this type of simplistic storytelling, that wouldn't figure out the twists and turns. And so there's a certain unevenness with it to where it made for an odd mix. Because on the one hand, it's certain lines in it, certain points, and I was like, that's actually a pretty good line. That's actually kind of hit me as a 35-year-old man with kids that are loving this movie. But then the way the story's told, I was just kind of disconnected from it because that's an unevenness to it that doesn't really work. So overall, it's a watchable kids movie that's really not all that great. It's kind of like a McDonald's hamburger. You can eat it, you won't hate it, but in the scheme of things, it's a pretty crappy hamburger. I'm going to give it a 5.5 out of 10. My crowd was loving the third act of it. I was really kind of disliking the first act quite a bit. It gets better as it goes along, but even my kids weren't laughing very much in the first half of the movie. It was really the second half where they seemed to, and the crowd seemed to get into a little bit more. And if I'm being honest, this movie has kind of established that the Cars franchise is a weird anomaly within Pixar. It's designed specifically for kids, and it's only kids can really love it as far as I'm concerned, but it's watchable enough. How about you? What did you think about it? Tell me down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Maybe you can convince me why it's better than that. I doubt it. I mean, this movie really, it's like a whole bunch of the Rocky sequels all kind of crammed into one at the same time. And that's not really my thing. Coming up in just a couple days, I'm going to start talking, I'm going to rank the Pixar movies, and I got a collaboration talking about my favorite Pixar movies in depth with Almost Sideways. You can go ahead and check that out. I would love that. If you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. I do movie reviews, ranking videos, some talk about TV from time to time, and all in all, what I really love to do is not just talk about movies, but talk about movies with you. So join me in the comment section. I'd love to get to know you, and thank you for watching.